Okay, hi guys. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Arabella, and I've I've been wanting to start this YouTube channel for a long time. And to be honest, I've been a little bit afraid. The internet can kind of be a crazy place, and I've just I've just had to kind of get up my nerve. Today I'm going to talk about something that's been in the news a little bit, and that is Stephenie Meyer's new book coming out, Midnight Sun. So if you haven't heard yet, and I'm sure you have, it's been everywhere. I actually wrote a blog about it, and so that's going to be linked down below for you guys. But I really wanted to talk about it on video just because I've kind of felt this way for a long time, that Twilight has always been Edward Cullen's story. So let me explain. We all know that Bella Swan is the protagonist in Twilight, like it was such a big thing, like I drank the Kool-Aid, okay? I was so in on it and so obsessed with Twilight, and I think it's so funny because it either was so loved or so fiercely hated. And I mean, I get it. I get that Stephenie Meyer kind of like took a creature like a vampire and really just kind of beautified it and made it very, like PG. And vampires are very violent. They're bloodsuckers, for God's sake. Like they typically don't sparkle in the sun. But back to my point. So I never ever liked Bella Swan as a character, not in the books and not in the movies. I felt like she was just such a Mary Sue, and I know nowadays that a lot of writers and a lot of readers really don't like this archetype. I don't even know if that's an archetype, but you know what I'm saying. They don't like the Mary Sue protagonist, like cookie cutter bitch who is, brown hair, blue eyes, just very simple with there's nothing going on. So Bella Swan had none of the main things a protagonist should have, right? She didn't have that much of a backstory. She had no misbelief. And most importantly, she had no misbelief that was guiding her decisions. I talk about a lot on my blog about how when we're writing stories, we write stories based on how the human brain it's very flawed in the way it thinks, right? Us as humans, we can convince ourselves of anything. If I tried hard enough, I could convince myself the sky was purple. That's just how our brains work. If we had an event in our childhood, let's say, that showed us a distorted thing, and then we therefore took on that belief that that thing was real, we go on believing that it's real. So that's what a misbelief is. It is something that a person believes that is not theoretically true, either about themselves or about the world, right? So when we're talking about Bella Swan, she had none of those things. I don't know who Bella Swan is. You could put anybody else in that position, typically, and it would still be the same story. I mean, Edward Cullen, it was described as just very beautiful. I mean, Robert Pattinson's very beautiful, let's be honest about that. But, like, if you're really, you can insert her little friends in, and I feel like it'd be kind of the same story. There's nothing really unique about Bella Swan other than she's, like, good with weird. So I don't know. I just thought she was kind of lame as a protagonist, but I've always been saying that this has been Edward's story from the get. He should be the protagonist of Twilight, because when we look at Edward Cullen now, when we look at his rich and deadly past, like 100 years worth of character development. Are you fucking kidding me? And you blew it? Like, what? Like, you could do so much with 100 fucking years. Like, when you think of, like, characters who are that old, the Arwen's dad in Lord of the Rings, I don't know if it's Elrond. Oh, I'm sorry. But you know who I'm talking about. The elf in Lord of the Rings, it was Arwen's father. He was so old. And, even even without knowing a ton about him, you could tell that there was like a lot of history there. So that's what you have with the character like Edward Cullen and all the other vampires. And I felt like that was something that Stephenie Meyer kind of missed, was that rich, deep backstory. You know, she kind of sprinkled it in here and there with some of them, but like if we're talking about Edward, I mean, there is so much that could be done there. But, you know, she did say, you know, he kills people in the past, you know, he has this history of not being, you know, a good person, right? So Edward has a misbelief that he is irredeemable, that he is a monster, that he is damned, that he is evil, that like his soul has been rotted because of what he is. Like there's nothing that can change that. He believes it 100%. So when he falls in love with Bella, which he's also thinking, my God, I want to drink this girl dry. Like, could you imagine? So he has this deep-rooted misbelief that has been rooted for 100 years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine believing something about yourself that isn't true for 100 years? That's why Twilight is Edward Cullen's story. That's what you give a great protagonist. You give them that rich, juicy history. And that's why I think Midnight Sun is going to be very popular. I think people are going to love it. I know it was leaked back in 2008. I remember reading some of it and I was so intrigued. And I'm pretty sure that's where this whole thought came from. But I think it's going to be great. You know, his misbeliefs guided his choices every step of the way. And that's the goal, right? You are supposed to create a main character, a protagonist who has some event in their backstory that has cracked the mirror of their perception of life or themselves or whatever. And they make bad choices based off of that misbelief. That is like the core of writing characters, of writing a character arc that starts from here and goes to here. And we know that Edward Cullen starts here and ends up here, right? He is an irredeemable, soulless monster at the beginning, and at the end, he finally can say, oh my God, I've created life. I've created love. I am not a monster. And that is just a beautiful thing to watch. And that is what you're supposed to have your main character do. Not that you can't have other characters in the story besides the protagonist have an arc, but my God, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do it once, which she did, give it to your protagonist. And she gave it to Edward Cullen instead of Bella Swan. And I feel like that's where a lot of the disconnect came from. I mean, minus the sparkly vampires thing, but you know, I think that's where a lot of it kind of if we're just talking about purely like developmentally on a story level, I think that's where a lot of it kind of didn't quite didn't quite translate. So, yeah, I'm so excited to read this book. I love Edward Cullen as a character. God, it's just so rich. It's great. And, I'm glad that she's doing it. And I implore you guys as writers to use this as a great example in your story. Like, is your protagonist, right? Is your protagonist a Bella Swan or are they an Edward Cullen? Like, what's going on with them? And I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy to craft this kind of thing, but once you get it, you get it. And trust me, that's what makes a story. We talk about plot-driven stories and character-driven stories, and what people are looking for is that character-driven story, because we're all human beings. We all collectively share similar experiences, and that's what writing is about. It's been that way since the dawn of time. Storytelling is in our DNA. It is so valuable to us as human beings, and that's what you want to go for. It's my biggest piece of advice is internal conflict, misbeliefs, backstory, the whole shebang. So if you want more on that, definitely check out my blog. I have tons of blogs that I've written now that really go deep into that. My Protagonist series is that, and it shows you how to mesh what I just described with character into plot, so you're not having to choose plot or character or plot, right? You don't have to choose one or the other. There is a way to blend them together, so if you were to have your story, it could only be your protagonist's story. You can't just insert whoever the fuck in there and have the same story. It's only this story because of your protagonist, and that is when you get it. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I know it's kind of like an oddball first video for a YouTube channel, but I'm trying to put myself out there. I hope you guys enjoy, you know. Always take what resonates, you know, you should do that with anything. You know, I don't have any fancy accolades or proof to prove to you that what I'm saying is right or correct, and I'm sure I'll be wrong on some things, and my opinion will change over time. But I do have a passion for writing. I'm writing my own novel now. I just finished my second draft, and it's everything, you know. My round 3 edits are going great, and I'm so excited, and I want to bring all the years of my studying to you. You know, that's why I started my website, was because I spent so long learning how to write and discovering that, oh shit, this is actually like a thing. Like, I actually have to study. I have to figure this out, because when I sat down to write my novel seriously about 6 years ago, I was lost. So I get it. It's hard to learn. It's like anything, you know, it's a craft, and you have to develop that craft and learn and study. And that's what I did. I did that for about 4 solid years before I even actually wrote my first book, which was my first draft of the book I'm writing now. So I have that, and I have a passion, and I love to teach, and yeah, I'm passionate about it. So that's what I have to give you guys. And I hope you enjoy it. So please like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment, share it, check out my blog, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.